Hi, this is Kathy with In Your Corner, where decision, commitment, and accountability will put you on the path to your destiny. Have you ever been in a situation where people have presented you with opportunities, but it went wrong and it was all because you didn't ask the right questions? Are you overqualified in seeking an opportunity to demonstrate your talent? Do you find that you can't volunteer for a position because you already have a full-time job? Today, I have some news for you. I have a guest. Her name is Maria Kludt, and she is a recruiter. And today, our topic is, what do recruiters look for? Thank you, Maria, for being on my show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, today's job market is extremely competitive. And it's so important that when you're applying for a position that you make your best effort to put forth your best self. I don't think people really realize that they are selling themselves to an employer.
Right.
The commodity that they're putting forward is themselves. I often find that it's hard for people to talk about themselves in the first person. I know when I'm brushing off my resume, Maria, and I'm looking at certain things, and I go, okay, how do I talk about my accomplishments? As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of dusting off my resume now, and I look at things like, what have I accomplished over the last 12 months, and how do I take those things and quantify those into dollars? What attracts you to certain candidates?
You actually touched on a subject I do want to emphasize, which is accomplishments. You need to be able to state accomplishments on your resume, make sure they're quantifiable, as you mentioned, because then that sets you apart. You want to say something like, I managed a 5-person team, which came under, say, $100,000 under budget and came in 2 months ahead of schedule. So that's definitely a quantifiable accomplishment that recruiters will highlight when they start talking to you over the phone. So that definitely sets you apart from, say, somebody else who doesn't list any of those accomplishments. But going back, I want to kind of say that you should always follow the online application process, complete all the fields, because fields are ways that recruiters will be able to sort and filter you into the candidate pool. And if you don't include that information, then you may not even get in front of a recruiter. That's pretty important. Obviously, I look at the resume to match. Keywords are important. Those keywords are sometimes gleaned out of the fields.
When you're looking at your job bulletin or your job announcement, how do you go about identifying what the words precisely are that the recruiter or the hiring committee is looking for in the candidate? I mean, are you focused in on a particular section like the knowledge, skills, and abilities, a particular resume structure, or?
Yeah, great question. I glean the keywords based on the qualification requirements of the job opening, the job ad. So candidates should always look at that, make sure they review it, and if they're qualified but don't have it stated on their resume, they should make sure they state those qualifications. Yes, education is usually the first listed as a qualification, and that's very important. Make sure you have that education listed prominently on your resume, either at the beginning or at the end. You can state some of these qualifications under skills or tools. Doesn't have to be something in the introduction. It can be just listed as easily as that.
Let's say you're applying for a position, but the position is not a technological classification. But I noticed that in a lot of different positions, people talk about our employers talk about knowing or being familiar with certain tools, right? I know I work with numerous tools, but it never dawns on me to ask, what kind of tool is this? I work on a variety of tools that achieve common goals, but a lot of times the tools that people work on are, especially if you work for a large corporation, they've taken something off the shelf and they've modified it to meet that organization's needs. So it's really not a common product that's across the market. It's something more tailored to that industry.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how does one leverage that, because it may be similar in nature to something else, but you wouldn't know what that something else is because you were working in something that was a hybrid of it.
Right. I would still recommend you list the name of that tool, whatever they call it. But then, in parentheses, you can put, say, ERP. So they know that that's an ERP system, enterprise
Mm-hmm.
resource planning,
Mm-hmm.
or an ATS, applicant tracking system, so that the reader understands what that tool is, and so they can relate it to the requirements.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So how many resumes on average do you go through in a day?
Well, today I went through about 200.
Woo! And
Yeah.
that's an 8-hour, 10-hour day?
No, that actually took me probably about 2.5 hours. So I do
Wow.
set aside quiet time to be able to go through a lot of resumes.
Okay, so out of the 200 resumes you went through, how many resumes actually passed the first pass?
Right. Well, actually, these 200 resumes were already filtered. So a lot of applicant tracking systems have filters that recruiters set up. So again, going back to the importance of keywords, what are the keywords in that job ad that you have to make sure that are in your resume in order to be filtered into the candidate pool? So these 200 are already filtered in.
But how do you get down to what's on those? I mean, you figure they got through the first step or the first gate, basically, right? Because they had the right words. But then, are you going to end up talking to all 200 of them? You are.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, no, not all 200. And so the first filter, we typically find as recruiters 5 to 10% of the people who apply are actually directly qualified for that position.
That's pretty good.
So very little. And that when I say that, they hit all of the requirements.
Okay.
So somebody who applies that doesn't have 10 plus years would not be considered necessarily qualified for that position, maybe for something else I'm recruiting for. So I do set that resume aside. But today, after looking at over 200 resumes, I probably picked about 5 of them to reach out to, and talk further about the opportunities I'm working on. So
what set those 5 apart? What was it about those 5 out of 200 that appealed to you over the majority?
Yeah, exactly. When I get to a point where I'm looking at resumes more, taking a deeper dive into resumes, I look at resumes from bottom up. To me, I'm looking at progression. So either progression, promotion within a company, or when you're moving from one company to another, is there a specific reason why you made that jump? Was it a bigger company? Was it a promotion? I like to see career progression. And within that career progression, again, you were looking at something quantifiable. So it's scope, from maybe somebody was a materials manager at a large company, but then they moved to a smaller company and became the supply chain manager. So that's a bigger jump in responsibility, but for a smaller company, but that's an appropriate jump in career. So, we're looking at progression and seeing where somebody takes on more challenges, maybe bigger scope, what then would be the next appropriate level for them to take on in this new career. So,
well, thanks, Maria. That was a great explanation about the recruiting process as far as sorting out on keywords and taking a bottoms-up approach. So what happens with the 5 from that point on? Do you talk to each of the 5?
I do reach out to all 5. I want to talk to all of them. Some will be competing for the same positions, but at this point, I'm on a project looking for multiple supply chain managers all throughout the country. So one may fit one job over another, etc. So the discussions will be very similar because they're very similar types of roles. What I look for when I get that person on the phone is their presentation. So obviously I like their presentation on paper. So how do they present themselves on the phone? And I like to have the dialogue as informal as possible because I want this to be an opportunity for them to also consider the positions I'm discussing with them. I don't want them to feel like they can't ask all those questions that they normally wouldn't ask because this might not be the right, a forum, but I want them to be at that comfort level, like we're having now, a dialogue.
Right.
Definitely.
So is it hard to get a person to that state or to that place of
No, because
comfort?
I don't ask questions right away. And I think that's the mistake of some recruiters. They will just bombard a candidate with all these questions.
Right.
I do want the candidate to have done their homework and understand the company and the job. So that'll come out in that discussion. What I tell them is I'm going to start off and tell you a little bit about this division, about this position, the site, so you understand what the role is a little bit better. But if you have questions, please let me know so I can make sure I answer those questions as we're talking. And that tends to be more dialogue. And then they start to express how their experience relates to the position. And then we kind of just go through that process. As I talk, I ask, so what's your management style? And, we talk in those terms and they describe, their experience.
What are some of the things that you can let my audience know that if a recruiter calls you about a position, is telling you about a position, is there anything that someone has ever said or done, or was there some inconsistency upon speaking to them between their application and their conversation that did not connect, that was an immediate turnoff that lets you know that they were not perhaps a good fit for opportunity?
Yeah. Great question. They should obviously know what's on their resume. I've had candidates who have had assistance in writing their resume, and when I go over a certain point, they're not even sure what that particular bullet point is about.
Wow.
They know your resume and be able to talk to it. I always ask, why did you leave an employer? Make sure you are prepared for that question, because that's going to be asked all the time, and have a good reason for it. I don't want detail necessarily, but, I felt like the opportunity was a better opportunity for me. Then, that's appropriate. But please do not get into, I didn't get along with my manager. I think they had it out for me. I know that nobody wanted to work with me. Those are very obviously negative things that will automatically put you in a pile that recruiters don't want to consider you for further opportunities. So it may be the truth, but this is not This is not the forum to discuss those things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So. Agreed. So tell me, Maria, if somebody was trying to, let's say their background was all in finance, just as an example, and let's say they're trying to go into procurement. Okay, how would they bridge their finance experience in order to be able to change direction and go into procurement? I'm finding that I'm encountering a lot of people now that are in positions that it's almost like they've mastered that position, and they find that there's no growth opportunity for them there, and they've lost their desire for that particular profession, and they're seeking to go in a different direction, yet they struggle because they have a lot of experience in their existing area and none in the area they want to go into.
Exactly. Well, having that informational discussion with somebody in that profession is definitely the very good first step. Now, you also have to ask yourself, is it realistic for you to change from that profession, like you mentioned, finance to purchasing, if you have to maintain a certain standard of living and salary level? It may not. So that may not be the right choice for you after you consider it. But if this finance person were working within a manufacturing company, that would be easier to make that transition if they were to be able to put themselves on projects where they're working with purchasing people. Finance a lot of times works on inventory. So inventory management is a finance type of role. So maybe transition into inventory management, and then that can take you into supply chain or purchasing. But obviously that's that's something that you can do if you are already in a manufacturing company. So.
Exactly. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I do a variety of functions. I don't particularly have a specialization. I hate to say that I'm a jack of all trades, but how do you recommend a position for a person with a vast skill set such as my own?
Again, I think you start where you're working. If you've been successful at the company that you've been working, I think you have a better chance of being able to say, hey, I want to move to a different area. I want to be able to contribute in a different area while I bring all of my knowledge of the company into this particular role. And other opportunities to network. There's a lot of people probably doing the job that you're looking for, and if they're willing to give you a chance, then that may be the way to go as well.
Is it better to network or to stay within the existing company, or is it better to step out, because naturally when you step out you get the greatest increase to your salary by stepping outside?
Of course, but I think just to give yourself a chance. Your current company might be more willing to consider to do that for you, because they don't want to lose you.
Right.
If they know that you're looking to change your path. They want, if they're able to, they want to be able to create that path for you. Right.
It's to their advantage.
Exactly. And then if you've topped out then at your current company, then that's when you make that jump. But then now you have the experience. Look towards your current company. I always encourage that. They don't want to lose their employee, regardless of losing them in their current position, moving them to something else. They don't want to lose their employees.
Awesome. You know what? I have so enjoyed this, and I know this is going to be a benefit to my listeners. How can my listeners get in touch with you?
Well, that's another great topic. We didn't even talk about how candidates need to be visible.
Okay.
They need to be on LinkedIn. So they need to have all of their information there and connect, and that's how you can network. I'm on LinkedIn.
Do many recruiters have a profile set up on LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And many of them have a lot of connections. I think I'm at 1,300 at this point. So not that I know every single one of them, but I'm connected to them professionally, and a lot of people reach out to me to see if I can connect them to somebody I'm connected with, and I'm happy to do that.
Awesome.
So
do they just find you by going on LinkedIn and typing in your name, Maria Kludt?
Yes, they should be able to do that. I am, a freelancer. I'm happy to help make people connections and take on recruiting projects when I can, and be able to help people answer any questions they have when it comes to, how to find the right opportunity or how to network with the right people, the right groups, and so forth.
So, if you're looking to switch careers or you're looking to advance in your current career, go to inyourkorner.com and schedule your free consultation. See you Wednesday.